What's up, guys? Hope everybody's doing well so far. Let's cut straight to the chase. The Undertale 10th anniversary stream was spectacular. So much new content, new areas, new dialogue, new fights, new lore, so much to unpack and talk about. Also great insights from tobyfox about the behind the scenes of the game and kind of his inspirations and the takeaways that he has over the past 10 years. An overall awesome experience, and it left us with a lot of new stuff to unpack. So much so that I actually have 3 video ideas. This is one of those 3. And I'm going to be embracing the classic, the OG Fruity Shade video style. As you can see right now, a bit more off the cuff, just kind of more casual talk about what I took away from this new content. And today I want to unpack the Lumberjack NPC, as well as a few adjacent things I think connect to it that we saw in the streams. So I hope you guys will enjoy this look back at the classic Fruity Shade video style as I unpack this today. But before we get into that, be sure to like and subscribe if you are a fan of the channel and you are not yet subscribed. It would help me out a lot. It is greatly appreciated. You can also join the server in the description down below or in the channel bio for lots of great conversations amongst other Fruity Shade Deltarune fans. Like this past weekend, we spent time talking and discussing and reacting to the streams together. It was an awesome time, so join for awesome stuff like that. But first, let's talk about the Lumberjack NPC, the point of this video. And this is a brand new NPC that appeared in a brand new area of Snowdin. So, in the area just past the X's and O's puzzle on the ice, the one where you can go down and Sans like teleports around and you can fight Glide, the hidden boss, there was a little like cliff that you could fall off of and go down, presumably into that area that had the little house, little cottage with the lights on, the one that we presumed was possibly the Holiday household for a long time. And in that area down there, there were some pine trees and a brand new NPC that looks like a pine tree, like a Christmas tree. And this is a lumberjack, fit with all the normal lumberjack aesthetic, the plaid, the axe. Honestly, an awesome design. I think that they look amazing. And one of the first things that this lumberjack says to Frisk upon talking to them is that they cut down trees. So you can ask them, well, why do you cut down trees? And they say because they look like themselves. So that's the first little bit of characterization that we get out of the lumberjack. And then they say that they cut themselves down, or that they cut the trees down, but metaphorically themselves, in order to get stronger, but only their arms get stronger, not their heart. Or their arms get bigger, is the way that they put it. They also say that they don't go to like the surface, or not the surface, that's a bad word to use here, but to the normal like Snowdin, like upper level, very often, and that leads them to forget that there's a world where they aren't seeing things. There's a whole world out there beyond what they see down here among the trees. And then in the epilogue of the game, when you walk back and talk to all your friends after you break the barrier, or after Azrael breaks the barrier, they say that they stopped chopping trees and they instead put little hats on the trees. And they seem to be chill with the trees, which I think is also metaphorical, symbolic of something very important, which I'll talk about briefly now. So, explaining this lumberjack NPC. These streams are clearly designed to leave viewers with a new perspective on how they interact with the media. And this lumberjack NPC chopping trees that look like themselves makes me think of 2 things that Toby might want us to consider, especially in the context of Undertale and Deltarune, of course. Number 1 is don't limit your own creativity. One of the biggest messages from these streams, at least that I can pick up myself, is that people should use their imaginations to consider and imagine and think about, create their own worlds, their own ideas about what lies beyond the bounds of the game. So, we see, a good chunk of the underground in Undertale, at least from what we can tell. We see the ruins, we see Snowdin, Waterfall, Hotland, the core, New Home, etc. But we don't get to see much of what goes on past the few rooms in those places. We see plenty of homes in Snowdin and New Home that we don't get to, or Snowdin in the ruins in New Home, rather, that we don't really get to see who lives there or what kind of culture is there, what kind of festivities occur there, things like that, that I think Toby's trying to remind us, hey, don't wait on me. Don't wait on me to give you new content, to explain what's out there. Use your own imaginations and, decide for yourself what you want to be out there. The final moment of the stream is these very important words. The world is as big as you want it to be. Where will you go next? The world of Undertale and Deltarune 2 is as big as you want it to be. If you want to imagine what goes on beyond what we see in Waterfall, for example, who lives in Waterfall? What kind of things do they do there? You can imagine that, and you can make it that big. What if there are places beyond the areas that we see? Like, for example, Undertale Yellow has the Wild East, right? What if there's some kind of, I don't know, I was gonna say an ice area, if that's like most of the game. I'm trying to think of like a cool area, like a nice like foresty, like Amazon forest kind of area in the underground. That'd be pretty cool, right? And I can imagine that, and I can be creative and create my own kind of like fan fiction, headcanon, my own fan works that, inspire me to be creative and push the bounds of what we see in Undertale's world. And the tree, or the lumberjack NPC, chops themselves down, and they don't grow. Their heart doesn't grow, mind doesn't grow, because they're not letting themselves be creative. Later on, in the end of the game, they learn to embrace themselves and their creativity, and allow themselves to be creative instead of chopping themselves down and limiting and pushing down their own creativity. That's what I think is one of the bigger takeaways from the tree NPC. The other one is similar, but in a different effect. Don't limit others' creativity. The lumberjack could also be a warning about putting down others for having different headcanon and fan-made ideas. This does better explain the arms getting bigger, but their heart not getting bigger, is that if they chop down themselves, like more trees, in this sense, the trees being other fans, other theorists who are just trying to have the same kind of fun and enjoy the same media as you, that they're just like you, right? You might make yourself feel bigger, like, oh, I'm such a bigger person, a bigger man, because my theories are true and yours aren't, or I stick to what's canon and you don't, and this and that. You might feel bigger and more important that way, but your heart definitely is not. If you are acting that way, then you probably have a rather small heart, I would imagine. So, once again, in the end, the lumberjack chooses to stop cutting down others that are simply like themselves for what they do, and, put little hats on them to accept them and embrace them and make them even more like themselves, because we see that the lumberjack has a hat themselves. So I think that those are the two of the major things that the lumberjack NPC is supposed to represent. So, for example, Toby says that the stuff shown in the stream isn't really necessarily canon. It's not canon, it's like a what-if scenario, right? So, like, this is his interpretation of what lies beyond the walls of what we see in the game. Now, obviously, people can kind of understandably lean into, well, he's the creator, so obviously if this is what he believes is out there, then that's what's out there. But that's not what he wants us to think. He wants us to think more like, okay, here's a hint, here's an example of something that shows creativity about, what's beyond the walls of my game. Take this as an example and make more of that. Don't wait on me to make things for you. Obviously, he wants to make games for us, but don't wait on me to show you every little nook and cranny of Undertale's world, because he's probably not going to be revisiting it anytime soon, if ever. So it's up to us, as the consumers, to explore what else is out there. So that's why I think Toby made these new areas, and so it's not necessarily canon. I think some of it is pseudo-canon in the way that the sweepstakes was, because the sweepstakes also wasn't canon, but a lot of that, if not all of it, became important and appeared in Deltarune chapters 3 and 4. I think there are some things that I'll talk about in the next two videos from these streams that, while not necessarily canon and didn't happen in Undertale as we know it, do suggest things about the Undertale/Deltarune universes that I think is pretty important. Namely, the Gasser Door and the New Gerson dialogue, but that's for a later date. So, while this tree NPC might be the one that lives in the little cottage down below with the lights on. It could still be Noelle's house. It could be the holiday house for all we know. We do in fact see Noelle in the Snowden Plaza near the Christmas tree and Monster Kid, which is pretty cool. A little baby Noelle, so that's further confirmation that the holidays do exist, in tandem with the Sans and Asdor dialogue from the casino area on the Xbox edition and the alarm clock. So that's still a possibility. Maybe I want to interpret it that way, like, okay, well, in my interpretation, in my creative vision of Undertale, what lies beyond, that little house is the holiday household, and that's fine. Maybe this does suggest that it's the tree NPC, or the lumberjack NPC, but in my interpretation, maybe it's Noelle's house, for example. So, and it'd be wrong, I think, for people to attack somebody for saying that, because it's not confirmed either way. This is just, a what if, what could have been, and it's not right to chop down others for having their own interpretations, because they're just like you. They're people like you, they're fans like you, they're theorists like you who just want to engage with a piece of media that they really enjoy. So, there's a bit more evidence from these streams that also kind of points to this being an important message. And these things are the new Gaster door, which I know has caused a lot of interesting theories to surface, and also the fight against Mr. Sunshine and Aberrant, which has not been discussed nearly as much. I feel like I haven't seen a whole lot of that going around, so I'm going to do that myself today. Firstly, we have Mr. Sunshine. So, Mr. Sunshine and Aberrant are two enemies that are fought in the Dog Hole, another new area, which is actually pretty close to the Lumberjack NPC, in the Glide area, and these new enemies are stronger monsters. They're rather powerful, and they're both reflective of a certain type of person, a certain kind of fan who interacts with theories and headcanon in a certain way. So this dog hole place is made out of dog fur, white dog fur. Obviously, Toby is the white dog. It has this kind of eerie music. We start 100 floors deep, so it goes pretty far, apparently. Of course, we don't get to see what else there is. We only see these enemies and a glimpse of the other two before the player of the game runs away from them. So, Mr. Sunshine, firstly, he reflects the allegory of the cave, Plato's allegory. He has a few lines about shadows and shadows being cast and the light and this kind of stuff. He says that Checking Him says that he casts a light, or he casts a shadow, rather, and then he takes that shadow as truth, essentially. So he casts his own shadow and then believes that as being what is real. And I think that this is a representation of fans who push their own theories as canon and as truth and refuse to consider what others think or even what is in the games themselves. Mr. Sunshine believes that he is the sun, even after, because we fight him after the barrier is broken, even after telling him, hey, the barrier is broken, there's the real sun up there if you want to leave the underground and be free. He's like, nope, I'm the real sun, that's an imposter, I've always been the real one. Obviously he's not, but he believes that whatever he says goes and that he is truth. In some ways, he kind of is the author. He is Toby himself in some ways, or at least he believes that, just to clarify. And he pushes his truth and his beliefs on others, and doing that can be damaging and toxic. Obviously, it's natural for you to want people to believe your theories. I understand that. Like, I would love for you guys to believe all my theories, but at the same time, I also want you guys to have your own ideas and come to me with your own ideas that we can all learn and share together. Mr. Sunshine is someone who does not appreciate that. He wants you to believe that he is 100% the truth, the gospel, the end-all, be-all, and if you don't agree, then you are just a loser bum, which obviously is not what we should be doing when interpreting media. Aberrant is the other side of the same coin in some ways. It is a white knight of Toby, or of a dog, but it's Toby, obviously, and it worships everything that the dog doesn't say, which is an interesting way of putting it. To me, I think this reflects a kind of fan who kind of puts down people for having theories. So whereas Mr. Sunshine makes their theories as truth and as fact and pushes them upon others, Aberrant is someone who necessarily doesn't have their own theories that they push upon others, but they chop down others for having their own theories. Oh, that's not in the game. Toby didn't say that, so it can't be true, this and that. Or like, wait until the game comes out and you're all gonna be proven wrong and that kind of thing. This is someone that shoots down everyone else's creativity because Toby didn't state it as canon, which is obviously the exact opposite of what Toby is pushing for here. Once again, the world is as big as you want it to be. So even though he might not say that there's a lush Amazon rainforest area in the underground, doesn't mean there's not. That could still be true. It could, you know, be false, but it definitely doesn't mean that it's false because he didn't explicitly say it. That's just something that I want to be creative about and build on, and it's not fair to others to be like, well, Toby didn't say it, so, you know, you're a loser bum. Once again, like, that's not how Toby wants us to interact with his games. And I think that it's pretty interesting that he's put a lot of focus on kind of trying to remedy, or kind of, maybe it's somewhat preventative as well, the perspective of theorists and fanfic writers and headcanoners and all that, all these people who engage with his media through both the, like, Mike and the Green Pippins stuff from Chapter 4 and the newest newsletter that I talked about last week, and also now the Lumberjack and these new enemies, and the entire, like, message of those two streams seems to be kind of him pushing us towards a healthier, different mindset around his universe, that he wants us to engage with it in that way, which I think is rather respectable, and I really do appreciate him doing that for us because it's rather touching in my opinion. Finally, we'll talk about the Gastro door briefly. I'll talk about it more in another video because there's the whole copies are monochrome, oh, this door is colored in, the other one is grayed out, which I'm surprised that I never really connected just how important the color gray is in Undertale and Deltarune. Like, the door is gray, the goners are gray, the vessel is gray, this and that, copies are monochrome, yada yada. That's a whole other conversation for a different video. Probably next video, maybe or next Friday or Monday. It's one of those two. But I'll definitely come back to this one. But the important thing here that I want to mention for this video is that this is an area that Toby didn't go to. So, or that the player of the game didn't go to, with Toby guiding him. And most areas in the game, if not every new area, had a donation goal to go back. So, for example, the area New Home that we didn't go to originally, after we beat the game, they were like, dono goal, and we'll go here. And we ended up going there. This door never had that option. We were never supposed to see what's behind the door. There's probably nothing coded in behind the door. So why is it there? This is another example of something that Toby wants us to imagine for ourselves what lies beyond. He didn't show us what's behind it because he didn't want to. He wants us to, or perhaps he doesn't even know himself, like he doesn't know what's back there. There is nothing truly set in stone back there. He wants us to imagine what is back there. So I think that this door is a great example of something that I think ties together a lot of the messaging is, yeah, I didn't show you the door. What's back there? Well, I mean, it's whatever you want it to be, truly. Like, that's the whole point of the stream. Anything could be beyond that door. It could be Wingaster. It could be Wingaster 2.0. It could be a lush Amazon rainforest biome underground. It could be anything. And that's why he didn't open it, because he didn't want to constrict people's imagination and creativity about what lies beyond the door. He wants us to consider it ourselves. So I think that's the purpose of the door. That also summarizes about all I had to say on this topic about creativity in Undertale's newest stream and the new content. Once again, there's a whole world out there, and the world is as big as you want it to be. Where will you go next? But with that in mind, thanks for watching the video, and if you have made it this far in the video, then you must like the video, so why not like the video? And also, big shout out to all these supporters on Ko-Fi, Patreon, and YouTube, with a massive, massive shout out to Hufflepuff Prefect and Tybee for being my top tier supporters. With that in mind, I love you guys. Be safe, be smart, do not be stupid, and have a great rest of your day.